Welcome to this live stream. Good afternoon. You're watching the Johnny Jenkins show here on Facebook. Thank you for being here. As you know, normally this would take place on Raw, on Warwick student radio station, but due to the current circumstances, not just at Warwick, but all around the world, we're having to make do, and that's why we're live on Facebook. But we've still got a fantastic show lined up for you this afternoon. In a while, we'll be talking to our panel, a panel of students that, as you know, we always have on the show, all about coronavirus in this coronavirus special. It's, of course, sweeping the globe. Over 3,500 people have now died in the UK. That figure's going to go up before it goes down. That's certainly what the government are saying. We'll see what the panel are making of it and also how it's affecting their lives, because it's really got this way, hasn't it, of uprooting everything that we know as normal. And so we'll be talking all about that. Also, throughout the show today, you can get in touch with your comments. I'd love you to. Just be aware that if you're watching on a group or on a page or on anything shared, I won't see your comments. So make sure you put it on the actual stream on the Johnny Jenkins page, and then we'll make sure that we can see your comments, and then, of course, that they on screen like you see there. So thank you for your company this afternoon. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our first guest, who is the Societies Officer at Warwick and the next SU President. Welcome to Luke Metham. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. It's great to see you, Luke. What have you been up to recently?
Well, I guess the same as most people, really. Stuck indoors, eating quite a lot. But on top of that, carrying on with my work and working from home. Still actually very busy. Although it's a different kind of busy. Been doing quite a lot of work on the SU Corona community group, as I'm sure lots of people are watching it from there. But yeah, kind of coordinating all of the events on there, encouraging societies to run stuff and producing content, but also keeping all the other societies ticking over and doing my day-to-day job.
I think the group's fantastic because it's, as you say, lots of societies are involved in it, and it's that community thing, it's bringing people together, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as we were saying earlier, kind of a time of the year when societies often aren't doing activities, so it is obviously the Easter vacation. It's great to see the work community still kind of really staying together, and really looking out for those that are at home by themselves and don't have anything to do, and really encouraging them to still connect with their societies and even try something new. So I'm hoping that from this, we'll kind of have loads more online events in the future, which will kind of mean that students that aren't always based on campus can get involved in society events a lot more regularly, but also just get students that are on campus to find new societies and new ways of getting involved. So I think it's really, really positive, both for now and in the future.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, just this morning I was watching a video on how to make a mojito. It's my favourite drink. I didn't know how to, but now because of the Warwick Cocktail Club, I know. So societies are doing great work online.
I haven't seen that yet. I'll check that one out.
24 mint leaves. Would you believe 24? Would you believe it? So look, if people haven't, yeah, I know. If people haven't seen this page, this group you've got, then
yes.
So societies are putting activities and holding events and things like that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole mixture of content. There's some things like the officers have been putting out Netflix recommendations, podcast recommendations, book recommendations, all the way to societies doing yoga videos, exercise videos, as well as videos on how to bake. So yesterday, Baking Society put out a recipe for a Victoria sponge. So that'll be my weekend sorted with that. But yeah, loads and loads of other content. The SU ourselves, we're hosting pop live streams on a Wednesday night. So at 10 p.m, you can tune in, watch Disco Dave kind of hosting pop as usual, but online. And then our quarantine quiz on Thursdays. So there's loads and loads of different stuff, both live events and just things to check out now from the weeks that have already been.
So on behalf of all Warwick students, can I get you to get Disco Dave to get some better Wi-Fi?
We're trying. Yeah, we this week, legend has it, he actually connected by Ethernet. So we thought that would solve some of the issues, and it did make it a little bit better, but still by no means perfect. But we'll keep trying.
And the SU at the moment, like you say, you're working from home. I assume they're just sort of continuing as normal, but with the officers and the staff working from home and doing all they can from there.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're all becoming quite acclimatized with Microsoft Teams, having loads of kind of Skype and Teams meetings. But generally, everything's kind of business as usual. Obviously, other than all the outlets on campus, they're all closed. Pretty much everything else is still going. So societies can still continue to organise events. We're still running services through the advice centre, and all the officers are still kind of there, contactable by email.
And with term 3 coming up in a couple of weeks' time, of course, a lot of us, and in fact, most of us aren't going to be on campus. We're going to be continuing this distance learning and exams and coursework and all the rest of it. It's going to be quite a difficult time for quite a lot of people then, isn't it, term 3?
Yeah, it's going to be a strange one. I think it's going to be very quiet on campus, I imagine. Still don't really have any idea how many students are going to be returning to campus. But I think it's exactly the same for us as well. We don't know where we're going to be, but it's good to see that the university have kind of put measures in place so that we don't really have that uncertainty as much. So everything being online, it doesn't really matter whether you're at home or on campus. You'll still be able to kind of fully get involved with your assessments and hopefully keep getting involved with societies and all that through the online stuff. And
the university implemented a no detriment policy, essentially meaning that if your exams don't go as well because they're online or they're open book or whatever they are, then that's not going to affect your grade.
Yeah, so we still don't know obviously all the details about that, but it's good to hear that the university are kind of very aware that this is a very strange time for students, and so very aware that they might not be in the best conditions at home to do their examinations, so they don't need that added pressure of it kind of impacting their whole degree score. So it is good, but yeah, we'll see kind of exactly how that pans out in the next few weeks.
And hopefully we'll get that exam timetable as well. Who knows when that will be. So Luke, give us an idea of the sort of things we can expect from the SU then over the next few weeks and perhaps months as well. I know you've got the group, more and more happening in there, I suppose.
More and more happening in the group, so hopefully getting more and more societies involved, and kind of getting the ones that have been involved back to do more stuff. But also we'll just keep on kind of talking to the university and relaying as much information as we can. Obviously, I don't know about what our physical presence is going to be like in term 3, whether we're going to be back on campus or not, but we'll see. Who knows?
A lot of uncertainty. Luke, thank you for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
It's been great, and I'm sure we'll be doing more of this in the Corona community group as well.
Let's hope so.
Okay, Luke, keep well, keep safe, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Look after yourself.
There's Luke Meffam speaking on the Johnny Jenkins show this afternoon. A reminder that if you've got a comment, a question, an idea, or something you want to add to a discussion, then you can just get in touch with your comments down below. And if you're watching on a group or shared to a page or anything like that, make sure you're commenting on the actual stream on the Johnny Jenkins page so I can see your comment. And then, of course, we can put it on the screen just like that one. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here on the Johnny Jenkins show. Now, as you know, we always have panel discussion on the Johnny Jenkins show. We have lots of chats. So let's welcome our panel one by one. We'll meet them and hear all about them. We'll start with someone who I think has been on the show more than I have, Enoch Makungu. Good afternoone.
Hello, Johnny. How's it going? It's a
very
great
well,
afternoon here.
thank you. Are you okay? Have you been keeping well?
Well, you know, I'm trying to keep busy, just trying to keep raw news, working on some projects. How have you been? How have you been handling this whole Corona situation?
It's a funny one because obviously it's been whirring around for quite some time now, and I first learned about coronavirus in January, but it felt so distant, and now obviously it's very real and it affects our lives and it's uprooted everything we know. So I've just been trying to just sort of keep positive and keep myself busy because that's all we can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I listened to some old news shows we did where we talked about it, and we just sound so arrogant, like, oh, that poor Chinese virus, how are they going to deal with it? And like now it's put our entire lives in shutdown.
Yeah, we weren't bothered about it until it started affecting us, were we? Enoch, so you're head of news now at Raw, and I'm not sure we've spoken since that on the show. So how's it going? What sort of things have you been doing?
Well, right now we're working a documentary about the strikes that, sort of, I wish something more timely, but yeah, we're working on a strikes documentary, hopefully to be released quite soon. And we're just trying to find more ways of keeping raw news going while everything's obviously not accessible.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the panel, Enoch. You stay there, and we'll welcome our next panelist, Dorka. Good afternoon.
Hey, Johnny. How are you? Good afternoon.
I'm okay, thank you. And have you been keeping well and keeping sane?
Yes, I have. I try to. I take walks daily, although because I just cannot stay inside.
We're all cooped up indoors, aren't we? Whereabouts are you? I didn't ask both of you. Dorka, where are you? And then Enoch, where
Oh
are you?
yeah, no, I'm in Budapest. I came home 3 weeks ago, and then just out of safety, just because I came from abroad, I stayed completely indoors for 2 weeks, which were very difficult, obviously.
Yeah,
And
that's
Enoch, you,
insane.
him in London.
Yeah, I'm just back home in London, keeping under lockdown, trying not to break any rules. I haven't had my one walk a day yet, so I've been going a bit stir crazy.
Saving up for later.
Yeah.
Dorka, 2 weeks in isolation for you, just as a precautionary measure. What was that like?
So I live with my mom. Hopefully, I mean, fortunately, we do get on very well. So that part wasn't hard, but it was just very boring, honestly. I did a lot of reading. I watched a lot of shows, did a lot of painting, but it's just all the days blurring together.
Really are, and it's affecting all of us, isn't it? But we're just trying to keep sane, and hopefully this will help people. As we welcome now our next panelist, Ollie. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Ollie. And we're talking to Enoch about his position at Raw. You've got one at the Boar, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm the games editor for the Boar now. It's been keeping me busy. Lots of articles to edit. Lots of writers, obviously, just as bored as we are. So it's all good.
And I suppose loads and loads of people are gaming at the moment, aren't they?
That's the
because they've
thing.
got so much time indoors.
Yep, I was literally playing Animal Crossing 10 minutes ago whilst listening to Luke, so it's all going well. 70 hours in
wow.
that game.
That's fantastic, Ollie. Thank you, and thank you for being here and
problem.
skipping out of Animal Crossing for a few minutes. I do really appreciate it. Other than playing Animal Crossing, how have you been keeping yourself sane?
Yeah, I've got 6 essays to do. I've been doing that. My one daily mandatory walk, which I am forced to do.
You don't have to do it; it's your choice.
I feel like you should.
Yeah, I mean, it's best to use it up, isn't it, Ollie? Thank you for being here. We welcome, and we should say you've all been on the show before, but our next person is a newbie, so we welcome Ananya. Good afternoon. Oh, we can't hear you, Ananya. We'll come back to you in a minute. See if we can get that sorted out. As we'll welcome our next panelist, and then we'll go back to Ananya, and hopefully we'll be able to hear her there. There's always going to be some technical difficulty, isn't there? We welcome Lucy Ferraby-Stocks, the station manager at Raw. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Johnny. How are you?
I'm very well, Lucy, and it's really, really lovely to have you on the show. How have you been?
Doing all right, thank you. Not complaining, carrying on. I'm working, which is quite nice. So a lot of things are normal for me at the moment, or as normal as they can be.
Because you work in the post office, don't you? So that makes you a key worker.
It does. Both me and my mum as well.
Yeah, because she runs it, doesn't she? Has it been busy for you?
It's been quite odd. We go from one extreme to another. Say last Monday we were busy. We were basically open all day, even though we're doing restricted hours. But then the following Tuesday we had nobody in for an hour and a half, and then a busload came at once. So it goes from one extreme to another.
Well, I suppose if anything, it keeps you busy, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's great to have you on the show, Lucy, and we'll welcome Ananya now, and hopefully we'll be able to hear Ananya. Welcome. How are you? Oh, you're muted, Ananya. Can we see if there's any way you can unmute yourself? There might be a little button next to your screen. See if you can do that and say hello when you think you might have. Oh, can we hear you now? Hello. Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how have you been keeping yourself busy?
Honestly, I am running out of ways to do that, but usually just trying to exercise a little bit because we can't get a house, so there's that. But yeah, so just trying to keep busy. Some uni work, some society work. So yeah.
What societies are you involved in?
I'm part of Raw, obviously, but kind of missing it now because you can't be in the studio. So I thought this would be fun. And then part of Gateway, so which is the social enterprise team at like empowering refugees and so yeah.
Yes, we've had the Gateway on one of the earlier shows. So thank you for being here. Lucy, just quickly before we get on to panel discussion, you're the
Yep.
station manager at Raw. So what happens now to Raw in term 3?
So essentially, as the university is not going to be back during term 3, Raw, we have gone with the same approach. So we took after many a meeting, Sian and I took the decision to close the studios for term 3, regardless of whether SUHQ is open or not, mainly for the safety of the members of Raw, people using the studio, even just visitors that just come and nip into the office to talk to us about various things going on. We have lots of traffic through our doors, and we want to make it as safe space as possible. And we also understand, to be quite honest, not a lot of people are going to be back on campus of term 3, if any at all, myself included. So it was more the fact that Raw, I think, is going to become more of an online feature, maybe with some more visual things happening within term 3.
And we know it's possible because we're online now and anyone can do this. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of this. We'll welcome back in the panel now. And Ollie, we can't see you. Perhaps we could sort that out. I'm not quite sure how to, but we're all learning. Oh, there we are. We can see you now. Fantastic. Let's then, I know we've touched on coronavirus already, but of course is what's affecting all of us. And we've heard from Luke Meffam, the Society's officer, about how it's affecting the university and the SU. But it's really going to affect the term 3 that many of us, or some of us at least, were looking forward to, or at least expecting. How are we going to be able to cope with not going back for that term 3? Ollie, what do you think?
It's going to be difficult because term 3 last year was probably my favourite term at university. It's the most social term. I spent many hours in the Dirty Duck doing the karaoke nights, sitting on the piazza drinking ciders in the sun, and we're just going to miss out on all of that. And as good as Zoom or House Party might...
Yeah, and as good as this may be, because a lot of people associate it with a term 3 with obviously the exams and essays and things. But once that's done, it's a lot of people say it's the most fun you can have in a term, don't they?
It is a lot of fun, 100%.
So it's going to be difficult, and we've heard a lot also from third years who aren't going to be going back. Lucy, you mentioned already that you're not going to be going back for term 3, which I suppose means you're home now till the end of September at least. That's quite a weird thought, isn't it, that you're going to be home for that length of time?
It is quite odd. It's also odd adjusting, because obviously university life and home life are different, but it's nice being home. To be fair with me, I'm quite glad I'm home. I'm happy I'm home. I think it was the fact that I didn't realise, well, I think a lot of people didn't realise until going home for the Easter holidays, how serious issues with the coronavirus had got. And I'd spoken to my mum basically every day. I'd speak to her in the morning, at night, on the phone, and she'd sort of been explaining what's going on. And obviously you read it in the news. I don't think you realise the severity and how it was then beginning to impact normal people. It's not just impacting people maybe that are from London, or politicians, or people that are travelling internationally. It was becoming something that was in most people's local communities. And I think I feel so much safer now I'm home. I don't feel, because I think you feel a bit out on a limb when you're at uni. It's a weird thought that we're not going to be back for term 3, and I do agree with Ollie in the fact that term 3 was when some of my best memories from first year are during term 3. Eurovision on the piazza, revising with my friends.
On Eurovision,
I know. I'd revise with my friends. It's sad, isn't it? Well, I don't know if you do remember it, Johnny, but that's another thing for another day. But even the fact that revising with friends during the day, and then we'd revise on campus all day, then in the evening, like I said, we'd go and sit in the duck, we'd have a Coke and probably a drink, and then chill on the piazza in the sun. So I think it's things like that you don't realise how much you're going to miss out on. But
yeah, I mean,
then again,
we were saying
I'd rather
earlier,
be at home.
Yeah, I know the feeling, because you do feel safer at home, don't you? And Enoch and I were saying earlier that actually we didn't quite realise that this was something that was going to be so real until it started affecting our lives. Enoch, for you as a first year, how do you feel knowing you're not going to be going back until term 1 of next year?
I mean, I mostly feel sorry for my family who thought they're going to get rid of me for another 10 weeks and now stuck with me. But it is sort of gutting because all year people have been building up all these sort of term-free things like term-free Juicy or going to Eurovision, and that's just not going to happen. And yeah, so I do feel sort of robbed in that respect. But I understand why it's happened. It's really gutting.
It really is. Dorka, you said already you're in Hungary. Does that mean you're not then going to be coming back to the UK until September, October?
I mean, I kind of have to go back to the UK because when I came home, it wasn't actually because of the virus. I just came home for the holiday, and then all of the serious lockdowns, all of the serious Italian crisis, everything kind of happened while I was already home. So I didn't really plan on leaving the UK for good. So all of my stuff is still in my room, which I have to go back for at one point. Which means I am going to go back before September. I don't really know when, but I want to go back end of May if it's possible. If not, obviously going to postpone it.
That's really difficult because my stuff is all in my uni house, but I know at any point I could decide on a day whether the government allows me to or not. I could drive up there and get all my stuff. But for you, you have to arrange a flight into the UK. And of course, many flights are being cancelled or suspended or whatever at the moment. So that's quite a lot of uncertainty, isn't it?
It is. And it's not only the flights that I'm worried about. It's kind of about being quarantined when I get home or being quarantined when I'm in the UK, because it is entirely possible that I go into the UK, be quarantined for 2 days, get my stuff, come back, 2 weeks, get my stuff, come back, quarantine for another 2 weeks, which is just a month gone and a month spent in quarantine. So obviously, not a productive or any kind of stuff like that month.
No, of course not. Nanya, have you moved out of your house?
Yeah, I have. I'm a first year as well, so I was staying on campus in the accommodation, and I'm international as well. So I live in Dubai, and I've flown back. So all my stuff is still in my room, and I'm in a similar situation. Like, I didn't plan, I didn't know, I just brought whatever I needed with me, and I actually made it back just in time before the travel ban, because the UAE imposed like a ban on incoming residents literally like 5 days after I had come, and I actually had moved my flight earlier to avoid that kind of situation. So that was a good thing. But now my stuff is stuck and now I can't go back and get it. So I just don't know what to do at this point. But I think we're just waiting and hoping that things clear up by September, and hopefully it should be back.
Yeah.
So it should be all
Hopefully
right.
things will become a little bit clearer. I was talking earlier, panel, to Luke Murphy, the Societies Officer, next SU President, a bit about this no detriment policy the university have introduced. Enoch, you're the head of news. You know all the news stuff around here. Could you be able to explain that to us?
Yeah, well, essentially it means if you're a second or third year, your overall grade for this year will not be taken down by the fact that you've basically missed your exams. Going to be in a very terrible position. Your dissertation hasn't got all the resources you need, that sort of thing. So your grade cannot be taken down by the bad quality of the work going forward, essentially. Yeah,
right, I see. I've just discovered how to make you. So I'm learning things on this software as we go along. I've been playing around with it so much. I think it's fantastic. So I suppose for some that will be quite reassuring. Is that no detriment of policy affecting any of you? Ollie, are you going to be affected by it?
I think it might a bit, but I've not actually submitted any summatives yet this year in politics. We all have formatives, and then all our summatives come, well, they're all due in May now. So I think I'm right in assuming that it's not affected us yet in terms of all the essays we have to submit in the middle of May. They will be our sort of lowest grades we can get throughout the year.
Yes, they'll make an average of all the things that you've submitted that are summative, and then you won't be able to get any lower than that. Lucy, coming to you, do you think that's good enough from the university?
I think it's adequate, and I think it's the right action to be taking, because obviously there are a lot of second and third year students who are going to be incredibly worried about this, especially those who may be international students, as they are not going to have maybe the ability to do these online assessments maybe at the right time, whatever form they're going to take, because obviously we don't know any more information on that yet. Specifically, I'm in the same boat as Ollie, doing PACE, so I think it will benefit quite a few people. I do think it will also put a lot of people's minds at rest, that they are not going to be these online assessments aren't the be all and end all. But I do think it's sad that we're in the position anyway, because a lot of people work very hard all throughout the year, ready for exam season, and now, oh, okay, well, it does raise the question as whether these things should be taken as seriously.
And for once, Warwick was leading in this. It was leading other universities, and I think often we're the university that follows. I suppose Dorka and Ananya, it's not going to be affecting you as such, but put yourself in the position of a student in their third year that perhaps had a couple of exams and had submitted quite a lot of coursework over the year. It would reassure you a bit, wouldn't it, Dorka?
It would. I would. I think it's a good policy. I think it kind of finds the balance between rewarding those who have obviously been good students throughout the year, but also leaving a possibility to get better grades or to just kind of better whatever work has already been done. I am a bit worried, as Lucy said, about whether these exams are serious at this point. I mean, if someone has already has a first from a class or a 2.1 and they're happy with that, I mean, why would they even bother with an exam? But I mean, I guess it's up to everyone's personal judgment.
And Nanya, do you think that actually what this might mean is that some students who have already submitted good work over the year might now be a bit complacent and not working as hard in their exams and in anything else that they've got upcoming?
I think actually, at least in my case for econ, what they've done is they've cancelled exams for first year. So now there's a lot more weight on whatever's left. So I think at least on our side, it seems that people might put in more effort because some of the tests were a bit like unpredictable throughout the year. So people are sort of like, well, now we don't have exams to make up for it. So I think now maybe that puts more pressure on whatever we've got left because people don't know how transcripts are gonna look, at least for first year. But I think for second and third years, it might also, I think, because they still have like alternative assessments, I think, some form of final exam, just in a different format. For them, I think the environment at home is usually like, it's harder to get stuff done at home because you get comfortable. So I think definitely it would have an impact on how people work and how well they would do, and maybe people would just feel a bit more relaxed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're watching the Johnny Jenkins show here on, I was about to say Raw 12:51 AM. No, we'd normally be there, but we're, of course, on Facebook Live this afternoon. I've been encouraging you to get in touch with your comments. I've got one here from Adam Blunden, who says postgraduate taught students have been denied this safety net policy, creates huge problems for those more likely to be mature and part-time students, and they're not being treated in the same way as undergraduates. That's, Lucy, coming to you now. That's not good enough, really, is it?
No, I completely agree with Adam there in that this policy, it should be extended to all postgraduates, whether they are masters, PhD students, because they are facing exactly the same problems. So I don't see why there is any reason why it can't be extended further. Obviously, there is a lot more academic work, the skill level's higher than an undergraduate degree, but that's expected. But the same amount, if not more, effort gets put in, and arguably the result you get in a postgraduate degree they encourage you to do them to further your career and job prospects. So surely they should have the same safety net.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And because you get your questions, if you're watching this where someone shared it, or you're in a group, or you're watching it on a page, just make sure you're on the Johnny Jenkins page, and then when you put a comment, we'll be able to see them and, of course, show them to everybody else as well. Panel, we've spoken a bit about the effects of this on the university, but I'm interested to see your thoughts on the sort of global response to this and sort of particular world leaders. Ollie, you're in the UK. Do you think Boris Johnson and the UK government are handling this well?
I think they're doing better than they were a few weeks ago when we had this strange policy of let's infect 60% of the population with a herd immunity. That's kind of an unthinkable policy now. I think it's good that we're doing these daily briefings, but what I'm most impressed about is the civil servants who are doing this. So the chief medical officers, the chief scientific officers, these are the people who I think are actually coming up with the best policies and the way to do it. And it just shows how good the UK civil service is compared to ones in America, for example, where they're actually much more heavily controlled by the leading party.
Yeah, that's interesting. I suppose there's this idea that actually Boris Johnson and the Prime Minister in the UK isn't the one leading the country through this. It's the chief medical and scientific officers. Enoch, have you been impressed by the government's handling of this?
I think the real issue with the government's handling of this issue is the communications failure. I think from the very beginning, the way they approach putting out their ideas, starting with that whole hard immunity situation, has just been absolutely atrocious. They've got a bit better recently with sort of the everyday press conferences, but I still think there's a clear gap in their communication and what they actually need to say to make this whole situation work. I mean, I ran a Raw News poll based on asking question, is the government doing a good job communicating and handling the issue in general? And 57% of people said no. So that's my perspective on the issue.
Okay, we of course bring you all the latest breaking news on the show. So we just heard that the Premier League season has been suspended indefinitely after a crisis coronavirus meeting. The 2019-20 campaign is now on hold without a fixed return date after chiefs from all 20 Premier League clubs held a conference call this morning. We're unclear if they're pausing it or if they'll finish it now and then award the title to those that are already in the lead. Lucy, let's hear your thoughts then on the government in the UK, their handling of all of this.
Well, I think arguably no government wants to be in this situation at all. So you have got to give them some credit in that this is something that nobody could have planned for. Yes, there was, we have learned subsequently in 2016, there was sort of a situation put in place as whether the UK could cope if a pandemic or something similar to this occurred, and the results weren't exactly positive. But something like this is something you cannot plan for. Arguably, it is some form of type of what some are referring to as a modern type of warfare. Even though we're not in a physical battle with another state, we are battling a virus. So it's a completely unpredictable situation to a degree. I think in terms of their response, I think it's been a bit mixed. Personally, from the standpoint of coming from a family whose parent is self-employed, we were not really enthused when it was brilliant when they announced that workers could be furloughed, they could have 80% of their wages paid. That took a big stress off for us. And measures were announced for companies to do with business rates, etc., etc., etc. But there was nothing specifically for self-employed people. And now the 3 or 4 days that we had to wait before something actually happened, things like this sort of things are coming out. I understand that they are doing things in a stage-by-stage process, but being told or being promised something and having to wait for it is not exactly really reassuring. And an example, coming from a self-employed family, we are trying to access these things that are available to us. But one example for furloughing the staff, that will be done once what they call a portal is in place for this to be done, and our accountant issues it and actions it, etc. But they are still waiting for that portal to be in place so this can be implemented. So things like that, it's all right saying that they're going to do these things. It's all very well and brilliant, but it's how quickly they are going to get it. Again, another example, saying they are supplementing the income for the self-employed up to £2,500 each month, not until June. Yes, that's the main problem. So what are self-employed people meant to do from now until the beginning of June?
I think the government advice is they're supposed to apply for universal credit, and we know that there's a long waiting list for that, and that's got its flaws as well. And you'll be given a sort of lump sum in June, and I think that's the idea. Dorka, you're in Hungary. Tell me how they've been dealing with this, and I wonder if they've been dealing with this in a different way to how the UK has.
In Hungary, I think we have acted actually pretty early compared to other countries. I think we have begun the lockdowns and begun the serious quarantine procedure around when the 4th patient was diagnosed. I think so, probably. And then ever since, people have been taking it seriously. Funnily enough, the elderly in Hungary are the ones who are not taking it seriously, but the rest of the population is. And we have implemented all the standard regulations. No one can leave their house unless they have a very serious reason to do so. There's the daily walk, obviously, that everyone gets. the biggest issue in Hungary, I think, is democracy suffering during the coronavirus, because the government, the leading party, is actually taking it on themselves to deal with it pretty autonomously, which I personally do not like, but it is an approach to take.
Yeah, and Nanya, what about you? How have the government been dealing with this where you are?
So the situation in the UAE is less severe than obviously parts of Europe and the US, but I think what they've been doing we have sort of a semi-lockdown kind of thing from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Where they send alerts on our phones telling us not to go out, and they say, please stay indoors. We're sanitizing the streets, where we want everyone to stay inside. They're generally also encouraging everyone to self-isolate, to stay inside, but we haven't had any sort of official lockdown. So the situation is less severe, but there are still precautions that they're taking, and they're encouraging people to stay in.
Is that because they're not working as hard in putting these precautions in place, or is it actually that the virus isn't affecting you in UAE as much as it is perhaps in Europe?
I think it's more that the virus isn't as widespread. Like, they've taken similar precautionary measures. Like, I think they've also encouraged people to work from home. Like, my parents are working from home now, but and they haven't taken the full lockdown measures because I think they don't think it's necessary, or it's just not needed because the virus isn't as spread here.
Right, I see. You're watching the Johnny Jenkins show on Friday afternoon. Thank you for being here. It is nice that we're able to do this rather than radio silence in this funny old period that we're living in. Back to the panel. This, of course, isn't going away anytime soon, but what do we think will be happening next? What should governments be doing now? Should we be implementing more sort of stringent measures, or actually are we okay where we're at the moment, Enoch?
I mean, there's a lot of rumors flying around. This antigen test, where essentially you can test people to see whether or not they've already had the coronavirus. And so if that turns out to be something the government thinks can work and work relatively soon, their hope is that people can actually get back to regular life more quickly, because you can basically say, you've had the test, you've had coronavirus, you're immune to it, you can now go back in. And we're looking at a period, I think, of maybe 8 months of guaranteed lockdown is what the government's currently saying on their projections.
8 months?
Yeah.
That's quite a long time. There is this question over whether this lockdown that we're in at the moment is going to be the same for that period, or if there's going to be some sort of more harsh lockdowns and then some light lockdowns and a mix of the both. We've seen suggestions of both sides. Lucy, does that worry you then? Months more of lockdown of this strange thing that we're in at the moment?
It doesn't worry me in a way. It's sort of reassuring because I have family members. Mainly my mum, she is high risk. So if this lockdown in a way is a bit of security for that, and I know that I'm leaving the house and doing jobs and things, and my mum is for the odd thing as well, and she's still going to work to a degree because it's her business. So a period of lockdown is a bit more reassuring in that there are going to be less people out and about if we have to be. In what way it does concern me is the economic measures, and how we, as coming from a self-employed family, how the business is going to be impacted, and can the government sustain the measures that they are saying they are going to implement in order to support businesses from big and small, various different industries, various different backgrounds, and whether this economic support can be sustained over that such a long period of time.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you brought up there. This, of course, a lot of economic measures are being introduced globally at the moment from governments, but what's the effect of all of this going to be afterwards? And Anya, do you see something like the next financial crisis happening, perhaps the coronavirus crisis?
To be honest, I'm not as informed as I should be, but I think definitely it's one of the most important economic events probably since the World Wars, because it's put a lot of small businesses into ruin. A lot of people have lost jobs. I think the US's unemployment rate's climbing up day by day, and it's definitely going to cause a lot of disruption and cause a lot of uncertainty. it kind of puts things in perspective as well. When a few months ago Brexit was the main like economic event that everyone was worried about, which is on a whole new scale that we couldn't even imagine. And I think that definitely across the world, people are feeling the impact. Stock markets are crashing. There's been disruptions in the oil market as well. So it is causing a lot of disruption. But I think with the right sort of precautions that people are taking, central banks have sort of lowered rates as well to stimulate some economies in some places. Things can be kept under control. So hopefully things should be okay.
Hopefully so. Fingers crossed. Brexit does seem a lifetime away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
After all of this. Dorka, what do you think? I suppose the economic impact of all of this is going to be hanging around for quite some time, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, we can already see stock markets crashing, and we can already see that the economy is bad. But I mean, honestly, I'm not worried about it at the moment, and no one really from my family or from my close vicinity is really worried about it because we have the virus to worry about. But I think when all of this is settled, that is something that we seriously have to think about, of how to reset the economy. Or, I mean, in the case of the US, for example, whether the economy should be reformed, whether their healthcare system should be reformed. The silver lining that I see in this, and that I see in the entire virus, is that there seems to be this social camaraderie. I mean, people are just helping each other. They are realizing that we're all in the same boat. You know, they're very supportive of it. And I really hope that this social distancing support can be extended to rebooting the economy as well when the virus is over.
That's a really interesting point you've raised there, because there is this sense of, certainly in the UK, or where I am in the UK, this sense of community spirit and this clap for carers that we're seeing, and clap for key workers, 8 p.m. On Thursdays. We saw that last night. Ollie, were you clapping last night?
I was, because both my brothers and my sister-in-law are junior doctors, so obviously I'm out supporting them, making sure they're doing well. 2 of them are actually working in the intensive care units with coronavirus patients, so yes, I'm supporting them.
What do they make of all of this? Because there are some that say actually this clapping is patronising, and what you should be doing is funding us and paying us properly.
I think they don't really take as much notice of the political side of it as others do. I think they're sort of more focused on making sure they stay safe and heal and making sure everyone gets as well as possible. But I think at the same time, it is good for them to see that everyone's appreciating them more than they have in the past, for example. But you are right in saying that much more measures, particularly in terms of testing them, need to be done, because I know my sister-in-law in particular was very worried about her potentially catching it and what the ramifications of that could be.
Yeah, certainly that is a worry. And I think what we're going to be seeing more of over the next few days and weeks is more and more testing and more questions about testing. The government have already, in the UK, have committed to testing 100,000 a day by the end of the month. Lucy, are you seeing a bigger sense of community spirit where you are?
Yeah, definitely. We've had, well, see, working at the front of a post office counter, we have all sorts of customers coming in. We have lots of lovely people that are saying, "Oh, we didn't realise you'd still be open. Thank you for staying, being open." Unfortunately, we are technically classed as key workers, so we do have to be there, which is quite nice. We're also seeing quite a few local initiatives where I'm in Nottingham. An example being 2 of our customers. They run a sports injury body treatment physical therapy clinic, and they obviously cannot operate. They've had to close, so they are working with a local restaurant doing food deliveries for people all around Nottingham, from the north of the city, places where I am, Arnold, Sherwood, all the way to the south of the city, delivering meals, and they've got a big team of people doing that. So it's really nice and exciting to see initiatives like that coming forward.
Certainly. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. Good afternoon. You're watching the Johnny Jenkins Show on Facebook, with you until 4 today. And we're here in place, of course, of the normal show, which goes out on Raw, the student radio station at Warwick University. In these uncertain times we're living in, we've got a fantastic panel on the show today. If you've got a question or a comment or anything you want to say, do leave it below and we can share it. Just make sure, if you're watching it on a group or a page or on a shared post, make sure you're sharing it on the actual Johnny Jenkins page video, and then we can put it up on the screen. So we've discussed coronavirus, and I think that's something we're going to be discussing a lot more as this show continues. We've mentioned the clap for carers. Are we seeing anything similar in UAE, Ananya?
Sorry, could you say that again?
So in the UK, we've got this clap for carers thing where first at 8 p.m. everyone stands outside and claps those that work in the health service. And that's really bringing a sense of community spirit in where we live. Are you seeing anything like that where you are?
I wish there was, because that sounds great. But so far, I don't think I've heard anything, not from the government side or any organizations. But I think initiatives like that are really great because we sometimes forget also like we're asking doctors and nurses to spend so much of their time and service workers to spend so much of their time and putting themselves at risk. That we forget they also are sacrificing their mental health, time away from their family and also their own health to be there. So I think it's definitely something that they should consider, but we haven't seen it so far here.
Talk of those that are working in the health services and sort of on the front line and all the rest of it, they're making quite the sacrifice, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And especially in Hungary, because our healthcare system wasn't that great to begin with. Not great in the sense that they don't have as much protective gear as they should. So they are putting their health and safety on the line. We do have the clapping for them. We do clap at 8 p.m. every night. I don't know how long we've been doing it. It must be like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. Yeah, obvious. I mean, when do you guys do it? It's good.
We do it once a week. We do it on a Thursday.
Oh no, we do it every night. It's very nice. And even if I forget, all my neighbors are doing it. So, they just kind of keep reminding me. And it's very nice. I'm very appreciative of all the work just all the measures that they're doing.
That's fantastic. I'm not sure my Instagram feed could keep up with doing it every night. It seems to take over every Thursday. We've spoken about this coronavirus, and like I say, it's something we're going to talk about more and more. But for the UK members of our panel, it's a big day, or it would have been a big day tomorrow in the Labour Party, because we're finding out who the new Labour leader is going to be. Lucy, I'll come to you first on this. We're going to find out who the next Labour leader will be. But first, what do you think Jeremy Corbyn's legacy might be?
That's an interesting question. In terms of his legacy, I think there will be it is sort of sad in the way that with the coronavirus pandemic, that has obviously and quite rightly overtaken the importance of the Labour leadership election, and that has arguably removed him away from the spotlight quite quickly. But I think in terms of his legacy, I think the 2019 general election will be quite a big part of it, and I think will play quite a significant role because he defined a very clear move to the left of the Labour Party, and I think he will be remembered for that. And I think the result of the 2019 election will show that there was not a desire for what he saw as the Labour Party, a potential Labour government. And I think he will also be defined by his inconsistency around his Brexit policy, and because arguably that was an opportunity for him to come to the fore, the party to come to the fore, and provide a clear, from day one, outlined alternative to what Theresa May came up with, or with what Boris Johnson later developed.
And if he ran a better campaign in 2017, he could have become the Prime Minister and steered everything in the other direction. Ollie, do you think he'll be remembered as a good Labour leader?
In the history books, I think he will be remembered as the person who lost 2 elections for the Labour Party. He will not be remembered that fondly by those in the Labour Party anywhere away from the left-wing momentum sort of groups. But I think what should be noted now is what will happen in the immediate future with the Labour Party. I know that we're talking about the leadership, but will we move further away from Corbyn's sort of Labour Party towards a centre one, or will the big groups in Labour, like Momentum, stick with these types of policies, which we've seen in him and Rebecca Long-Bailey, who will not get the leader, but these types of people.
It'll be interesting to see whether, I suppose what you're saying is whether Corbynism outlives Corbyn and can hang around. Enoch, Ollie's saying there that Rebecca Long-Bailey won't be getting it. Who do you think might become the new Labour leader tomorrow?
I'm going to take. If it's not Keir Starmer, we're all going to have egg on our faces, aren't we? Because we've been saying for weeks that Keir Starmer is going to be the next leader of the Labour Party. So if it's anyone but Keir, Raw News is going to have a big fat egg on its face. That's it.
Who do you want to win? Is it Keir Starmer, or are you not allowed to say?
I'm not allowed to say anymore, am I, Lucy? I have to be impartial now.
No.
I have to. Yeah, I can't say. I'm not allowed. I have no opinion.
You're not allowed an opinion. I can now have an opinion on all sorts.
What's
It's
your
brilliant.
opinion, Lucy? What's your opinion?
I have an opinion on this. My favourite is Lisa Nandy. I really, really like her. Both not just as a woman, not just because of her politics, but also her personality. I think she has the right attitude about just in the way that she conducts herself, but also the right attitude for the Labour Party right now, because they need a refresh. Rebecca Long-Bailey will be a continuation of Corbyn. Keir Starmer, albeit not really a Corbyn continuation, he was still in his cabinet. He was still the former Brexit secretary, so arguably he is incredibly tarnished from that. You can make that argument. I think Lisa Nandy is a good return to the roots of what the Labour Party was founded upon, and that is the rights of the working class. And a lot of those are people who come from the north of the country who in December felt incredibly ignored and neglected, and that's what the Conservatives managed to monopolise on and use it to their complete advantage and successfully win the election.
At the start of this leadership election, or since the last general election, at least back in December, quite a few months ago now, Lisa Nandy, when you mentioned her name, people didn't really know who she was. She was a bit of an outlier, and I'm not sure she's done enough to win the contest, but she's certainly made people think and had a bit of an impact on the Labour Party, hasn't she?
Oh, definitely. I think she is I remember on the night of the election, watching the coverage. I was sat in the front room, watching it with my mum, doing hourly updates for Raw. And I remember watching, and she was interviewed by either BBC or ITV because we were flicking between the channels. And my mum actually said, I quite like her. And it's sort of from then, people have seen her, and she's sort of begun to gain traction from then. I think it is about her personality. I think it's the fact that she is showing the more moderate side of the Labour Party, albeit not, you could argue, to the extent of Tony Blair, who was what some say who was basically essentially a very moderate conservative. Some make that argument. He was incredibly arguably to the right side of the Labour Party. But I think she is a clear representation of the moderate group within the party, which I think is potentially in the long term a way forward. I think maybe now, I think she'd be a good leader now, albeit I don't think she'll get it. But I think maybe in another 4 or 8 years' time, I think she could be, that ideology could be a way forward for a successful Labour election.
Yeah, maybe after all of this coronavirus stuff and looking towards the next election, Keir Starmer, if he becomes the leader, might resign after losing an election, paving the way for Lisa Nandy. He might become Prime Minister in 10, 15 years' time. But perhaps I'm making elaborate predictions. I don't know. Enoch, what impact do you think all of this election that we've seen? We've got Keir Starmer, who's sort of probably somewhere in the middle of the Labour Party. You've got Rebecca Long-Bailey, who's towards the left with Jeremy Corbyn, and you've got Lisa Nandy, probably more towards the right. Do you think this will sort of unite the party in a way, this election, or do you think actually these divisions which we've seen might just continue?
Oh, I don't see Labour being united after this at all. I mean, while Keir Starmer may describe himself as being the sensible radical, someone who endorses Corbynism without necessarily being a Corbynista, I think over the course of this election, he's become more identified with the right wing of the party. And that means going forward, has to do even more work to win back over the soft left and even the hard left that Corbyn was more associated with.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And we've got this result tomorrow. It was supposed to be a special conference, wasn't it? But of course, it's just going to be announced online. It did make me laugh when I heard that actually all of the candidates have been asked to record a victory speech, and only one of them is going to be played out. So those predictions then for tomorrow, just finally, put your hands up if you're predicting Keir Starmer to win.
Unfortunately.
Okay, that's what everyone's
Sadly.
saying. Ollie, why'd you say unfortunately? You don't want him to win?
No, I'm much like Lucy. I really like Lisa Nandy. She seems to unite the party, the working class as well. She's from Wigan, I think. I think she'd be a great candidate. Keir Starmer, isn't he from Islington, I think? So it would be somewhere around there. More of the same.
You don't think he'll have an impact on the party then?
Not as much. I mean, he's not really been that active, that vocal the past few weeks, scrutinising the Conservative government. In my opinion, I haven't really heard that much from him, as much as I've heard about from Lisa Nandy and Rebecca Long Bailey and Jeremy Corbyn. He's been relatively quiet.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because all the sort of political side of things has gone away mainly anyway, and most people were getting behind the government strategy, or perhaps picking some flaws here and there, but not completely tearing apart government policy in the way they'd normally be. Whoever becomes this Labour leader, do you think it might be a possibility that they could enter some government of national unity with the Conservatives, with Boris Johnson, work together, work against the common enemy of coronavirus? Ollie, could you see that happening?
I don't think I could see a national government happening at any time soon. I think it would destroy the Labour Party. They would be split so hard on other issues as well, and on how they're dealing with the issue in general. So I think for sure it will probably be working alongside them. We might see a few, if they actually do get this online digital houses of parliament going, there could be a few votes when they get like a majority with like 0 against. That could happen in the future, but it wouldn't be in the same level as a national government that we saw in like World Wars.
Part of me thinks a digital House of Commons might be a recipe for disaster. Who knows? That brings us to the end of today's Johnny Jenkins show. We'll be back again next week with more panel discussion, and then of course we'll know who the next Labour leader is. Let's just go back to the panel for the last couple of minutes. Has anyone got any big plans for the weekend? Any big indoor plans?
None at all.
No.
Yeah. Every day just feels the same.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to separate the days and make them all feel unique. Has anyone got any good ways of breaking up the days and sort of keeping sane?
I think so.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Nanya, you go.
I think also maybe catching up with friends, because like we're not seeing everybody every day, so just like putting some sort of virtual social calendar down, just like who am I going to call today, or what uni work should I get done today, because we still have a few deadlines, so that gives you a sense of time. So I'll work on this today from this time to this time, like being specific about when you're going to work on things gives you a bit more structure, and also kind of making time to catch up with friends, because otherwise like we feel so disconnected. So yeah,
and Lucy, for those that weren't here with us at the beginning, what are Raw going to be doing over the next few weeks?
So as we head into term 3, obviously we aren't going to be broadcasting from Studio 1. We are going to be we'll be working with our on-air departments to provide some more of an online alternative. So I'd keep an eye out, something potentially similar to this, but there's going to be plenty going on from Raw from the beginning of term 3, and you'll be hearing a lot about it.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. Panel, thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon. Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah. Bye, Johnny.
Okay, we say
too.
goodbye
Bye.
to the panel there. Thank you very much for watching the Johnny Jenkins show this afternoon on Facebook. It's, of course, our new way of doing it, and we're going to be doing more and more like this over the coming weeks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your company. Stay well, stay safe, and as much as you can, stay at home.